Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast. Hanging out in the garage again. Chad Higgins, how you doing, buddy?
You brought a hat.
I wear a hat.
Brought a hat.
Stop. I wear a hat to most of our recordings. It's just not till recently.
Well, now we are on the YouTubes.
And people can see it.
The older you get, the more you put "the" in front of anything technical.
That's true. It's
the Facebook,
the internet.
It used to be the Facebook.
It used to be the Facebook. It's cleaner.
Yeah, no, you're rocking a hat. You have a leather strap on this hat.
I do. It's a nice hat. It's a nice hat. You leave my nice hat alone.
Is it wool?
It is wool. It's got a little bit of a wool texture to it.
It fits kind of interesting on your head.
It is. It's a little bit.
I feel like you got some gaps.
It's domish. It's domish on the head. You're the worst person ever. Anyway, I like it. It's a winter hat.
You know when little kids wear hats and it pushes their ears forward?
Great. Now I have to sell a hat. Now I have to sell a hat.
This?
Yeah, great. Driving traffic.
How do they find us on YouTube?
Youth Ministry Booster.
Weird hats.
Big hats. Yeah, Nathan Howard told me there's a whole trend of big hats.
What do you find on YouTube? Big hats.
Look it up. There's a whole trend of pro athletes wearing oversized hats on purpose. It's a thing. It's a whole thing.
The old SNL Jeopardy.
Well, that's also a really good bit. Yeah, Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name. Turd Ferguson.
Big hat.
Big hats. It's
bigger,
funny.
normal size.
It's big hats. Funny. Anyway,
some of our older listeners
they get it.
That.
They get it. Yeah, that's good. I mean, hey man, Norm was great. I miss Norm.
Fantastic.
Norm was fantastic. So, speaking of greatness, we're back for another episode in our GOAT series. Yeah. So, greatest of all time. We said that 2023 was a GOAT year. We wanted to talk about greatest, and so lots of fun feedback to our greatest workday ever. Some interesting comments. A lot of folks are on board with coming to my house to hang out. Like they agreed with you that great work day hanging out at Zach's house. So I guess we'll just set up the Calendly and folks can come hang out in the garage.
I mean, we've got this great background. What the other side of the camera doesn't show you.
Yeah, that's right.
We are in Zach's garage and it is freezing.
I like that you're not wearing the cardigan for fun. You're wearing it for function.
I like that you're like, you know what? I want to look cool. Hat and shorts.
T-shirt.
It's 30 degrees in here
It's
right now.
41 degrees.
All right, fair. That's just because of the wall.
It did snow the other day. Yes.
No, that's good. Okay, so what are we?
So
the
today's greatest of all time volunteer in student ministry, the GOAT volunteer. Now, you might call out the person. We're a little bit nervous to name any one particular person for our ministry tenure.
All your other volunteers,
right? And then I have to hand out trophies. It's complicated.
You know who you are.
But I do think for some folks that are listening to this, maybe they have someone identified, or they're like wanting to check notes, right? Like what is the greatest youth ministry volunteer of all time? So I think we wanted to paint a little bit of a picture in the aggregate.
We're gonna make them.
We're gonna fashion them together, maybe from a few different stories. We realize not any one person is going to be this person, but
did you ever play any of the sports games, video games, where you could like make your own character?
Oh yes, yeah,
like now,
yeah.
Every new game, I've got to like start in high school.
The dynasty modes, yes, yeah.
7%, and you've got to like work.
You got to grind it, yeah.
I don't. No, I want a slider 99.
Sliders to 99. I do like that. Like the newer ones, you have to like give and take. The old school ones, it was like just bump it to 11. That's it. That's all I got to do.
I want to be 4'11", 400 pounds, and I want to run a 4 flat 4.
Hey, quick as lightning. Just squatting the body. Just going. He has the swim move and the spin move.
Oh, dude.
All the specials.
When you're
specials.
4'11", 400 pounds, that spin move just looks like a globe.
It's just the Universal Studios logo just happening.
No, that's the best, man. You can't be caught. You're just shifting.
You're just snaking your way through. So we're gonna fabricate them. Or pro wrestler game, the old WrestleMania 2000 game. You could make some bangers of characters.
So this is all sliders on 9.
Sliders to 11. Yeah.
God, those were the best. Here's the deal. Any sports game. I'm sorry. This is a tangent. EA Sports. If you're watching,
fix it.
We don't
get in the game.
I don't want to grind.
Yeah, I don't want to work.
No, put that mode on there for
fantasy football.
The loser that wants it.
Right.
No, I want to go 99 on everything.
Right.
I want to score 900 points. Or if I'm playing golf, I need at least 6 hole-in-ones around.
Just your quarterback's playing both ways.
Yeah, I
Just
don't want to have to like messing with the wind. No, I want to be able to stick it inches from the hole every time.
Every time. Well, can I interest you in Mario Golf? Because
Is that how it
we've
is?
been doing a little bit of that in our house. Then the holes get crazy. Like Mario Golf used to be like Mario facsimile into real golf. The last couple iterations have been like just bananas.
Yeah,
like
because you're not playing video games to try to like relive your.
Now that's
like,
not
mind.
true. Some people are playing Power Wash Simulator, and you know who you are. We hung out last week. Thank you. It's real. And farming simulator and lawn care simulators, all kinds of things. But for this case, sliders to 99, greatest volunteer of all time, Chad Higgins. Where do you start?
First of all,
Tall. Well, the top shelf. We're getting things off the shelf. Right.
So
There's
I
always
would say-
storage. It's at a place.
and how to build the greatest volunteer. I actually think that your greatest volunteer would be different than my volunteer.
Impossible. The greatest is the greatest.
No.
Okay.
That's not true. Because I think what makes
You about to Kung Fu Panda this and flip it?
No, I think what makes the greatest volunteer ever is filling in the team.
Okay.
And so, like,
The Scottie Pippen approach.
you have different giftings than I have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Our listeners have different ones, and so I think first and foremost, realizing like where am I weak or what I need to like complement in the team, to make this person like that key number 2.
Okay. So you're starting with immediately the A to your B. Like
So I will say
out of the deficit.
If
My greatest weakness is their greatest strength.
I don't think completely,
But maybe.
because you don't want the opposite, because then you probably don't vibe.
Then
with
you
that
butt
person.
head. That's right.
But there's got to be those areas where you're like, I definitely need someone here, and I need them to knock it out of the park.
Okay.
So for me, I would start off with, and I'd be interested for you,
Okay.
whether you think this would be your case as well. I would want this person to be female,
Okay.
because just out of the gates,
Yeah.
having that counterpart that it's like, you know, when something goes down and we've got to have this conversation with a young lady,
Steady the ship. Yeah.
I would immediately know, okay, I got to grab this volunteer.
Right.
They're the perfect one to
She's
be
the
able
one.
to like
Yeah.
really be able to, you know what I mean, engage in that way.
Okay.
So would you go guy or girl? Go volunteer. You want a guy or girl?
Go out here. Either way, I think for me, the thing that I would stress is I'm with you on your philosophy, more than just specifically guy or girl. I want the person who is the most empathetic, like the empath, because I bounce, right? Like, that's my weakness is I float. I'm a little bit like, how's everybody doing?
You actually want somebody that actually cares about people.
I want someone that comes along behind and is willing to be like, me and this person, if we have to sit here and talk this out for the next 40 minutes while the program runs, I'll do it. Because that's a backstop.
You can't do that.
I can, but it would derail me so much. I would be like confused. I would never shift to that. I would have to be like
See, that's who I
into.
want to be.
So you want to be okay.
Like, yes.
The counselor sitting next to someone on the couch or the chair.
The older I got, the more true that was.
Okay.
When I was young, I was not that guy.
You bounced, yeah.
I bounced not probably for different reasons than you bounced.
Okay.
I bounce in those roles because of my high anxiety.
Okay.
Like I become worried and then I want to control.
Okay.
And so
that was a way to keep the fingers off of the
I
control
always
buttons.
knew I was the most healthy in ministry when I felt good enough about coming in and just being.
Okay.
Like if I'm present, I'm truly hanging out with people and I'm not worried about have we started the countdown yet? Are you know what I mean? Like are all the slides in place? Like are we ready for that first element? What you know what I mean? Like where is you know what I mean? Like all of those logistical things that are bouncing through my head.
Yeah.
Where I could just come in and I'm like, Ashley, how was the volleyball game?
And
You
then
know what I mean?
if you and Ashley talk for 12 minutes, you're not worried about the
Great.
other 3 kids you missed coming in.
That's when I knew that I would be in my sweet
Okay.
spot, because it was like I've done all the work that needs to be done.
Okay.
Leaders are in spots. Everything's running without me.
Yeah.
And so that was a good space to
Okay.
be in.
I think another person, so maybe not for the 2 of us, but somebody listening that might be that number 1 hire, that number 1 find for volunteer, is the person that can MC. And we've talked about this a little bit. I think there's a lot of ministers who plan, prep, and aspire to teach really well. I think one of the first steps that you can take to improve your teaching beyond your own effort is to delegate away some of the silly. So you don't have to be silly and storyteller.
Yeah.
You don't have to be silly and sage.
Right.
I think that's where we get caught up, is you're like, what's up, everybody? Blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, guys, let's take the scripture seriously.
Right.
They just saw you like watch pie someone else in the face. And that's where you feel like you get the internal anxiety of like, I gotta be both. And it shows really good delegation to be like, man, like, you know, this guy, this gal, like I'll help her come up with a game. We'll go find one, research one, download one, but I want her or him to have the full MC capacity so I can teach, or vice versa. If you love that role, I've really grown to love that MC role, because it is kind of that like,
You're good at the MC.
but then if that's the case, I want to make sure that I'm finding a really good, you know, maybe it's the senior pastor, associate pastor coming in to teach more often. I just think for a lot of folks, they think the authority is the more time I can spend on stage. And I think that some of the things your volunteers can help you do is reflect the ways in which you are a team of people, and you even share some of those authority moments. I think a lot of folks are just giving authority to the check-in desk or to the coffee bar and not seeing that like up front. Man, you have a volunteer that wants to be up front and do some of that because they're goofy, silly, or, you know, one of our guys that was really great back in the day in Tulsa, he legitimately on the weekends, he was, you know, an umpire coach for like league teams. Like he loved getting kids engaged in games, and so he was all about it. So,
the dude that is all of the things on a Wednesday night, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've seen the like, you know, hit the music in the back, run up to the front.
What's up, everybody?
You're emceeing right into the game.
Yeah.
And then you're
controlling the game from your iPhone.
You're also going to throw on the guitar and you're going to lead worship.
Right. Yeah.
And then into a talk.
Games worship teacher guy. There are moments where maybe you're having to cover some of those things, but that should not be beyond an emergency moment. And if it's the thing that it always falls that way, I think you've got to make hard choices of the things that we're going to do or not do on a week-to-week basis. Because being that person in all those ways every week, one, runs you ragged, but your students don't really know, I think, how to access you. Because it's like, well, he does it all. I don't know where I fit in.
Well,
and your leaders don't know where to fit in.
I think too, you're taking opportunities from others.
That's right.
And I think some of it is a little bit of the...
Even if they were not as good as you.
I think we've got to become leaders that give over responsibility to people that aren't as good as us to help like nurture that and build that.
Yeah.
They're not, dude. You have people in your ministry that are not as good as you in different areas. And so taking time to like find them, put them into space, like... That has to be a part of what we're doing.
What's your the 140 rule or whatever, is that 2 people doing 70% of what you can do is better than the 100% of what you could do. It's true. And again, like you're full time to it. They're putting in volunteer. Again, this is the greatest volunteer of all time. You're looking for a skill set that maybe they have naturally that you can help hone or connect in a way that might serve the church. Empathy for me, maybe MC for others, and then you were saying maybe the exciting kind of, or no, okay.
Maybe especially when I was younger, could definitely bring the energy.
Okay.
As I got
looking
older,
for that admin, someone with the receipt book.
You know, I love that part.
I mean, listen, homeroom mom is a real position that not enough youth pastors adopt from schools. Like PTA, baby.
I think for me, I needed the person on my team that was, not the like decorator, but like how do you take
Space maker.
yeah, like how do you take anything and give it the pizzazz?
Okay.
And
Put a little extra on
in
it.
our relationship, you're that guy.
Oh, I'm the pizzazz.
You're the pizzazz. Because for me, I'm like
Big hats and pizzazz. I'm here for it, man.
like if you and I were to get to plan our own camp together.
Yeah, which I would love. Yeah.
I would be like systems.
Yeah.
It's going to function well.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Content mapping.
Yeah, all of that. But then I would also be the guy like, oh, I didn't order shirts. You know what I mean?
Right. I had an idea for shirts. We should have had them.
No, in my mind, it would be like, okay, we ordered shirts, but like the best deal was just to get everybody Hanes shirts.
Oh, okay.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Functionally, that all works.
Everybody has a shirt.
Everybody has your shirt.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, but they need to be hoodies.
Right. Paper thin t-shirt hoodies.
Correct.
The kids love it.
And
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the person that I need on the team.
Okay.
That's like, no, Chad, other people care about
The one extra thing. Yeah. You're like, I'm not going to wear this shirt, but I know that if we have a camp and no shirt, people will see
Right.
it as like, yeah.
My thing is like, it's going to be, all the check boxes are going to be done.
Yeah.
You take it to that like next level.
Thanks. Okay.
Right?
Well, and again, I think that's something that happens only inside of a team, right? Again, the heart of this whole conversation, as fun as it is to dream, is that you need other people on your team that aren't you. And I think that comes from age and experience. I think that comes from like thinking about things, right? One of the people that I would say, and we talked about this a lot, this podcast started as like a love letter or notes to our younger selves. Yeah. It's the hardest thing in the world for a 19 or 23-year-old to hear this, but maybe on behalf of the 37-year-old version, you'll hear it. You need the mom that probably frustrates you the most to sit close on your small council, because if she knows now pre-event and not after the event, it'll save you a lot of headaches. I know that walking into that meeting will be tough, but if she gets to hammer out all the details with you, on you, for you, it'll help prevent a lot of heartache or headache later. You need it now. I know that's hard to hear, but you need that mom that is like not hip and not cool, or that dad that's like wearing loafers and braided belt. Like, he's seen some things and he'll ask safety questions, structural questions, procedural questions that you were just like, I thought a mechanical bull on the roof would be safe. Okay, it just made sense to me. Why wouldn't we do it?
So this, man, I didn't think about this before we started recording, but now thinking about GOAT volunteers, the GOAT volunteer is willing to push back.
Yeah.
Like, and you need them to.
Yeah.
And I think like
before, not after.
Yes.
push back, not complain. Everybody's gonna have a complainer, but if you get them in early,
well, if
bingo.
And you trust them and they trust you.
Yes.
That's a big thing, right? Like, you
trust enough to give you the heads up.
Yeah.
Hey, this might not work out.
Yeah. Or like the comment of like, we've done that in the past.
Yeah. And you hear it generously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way that they've done it.
And so, not as a traditional critique, but as a like, the last time we tried it, it wasn't safe.
Yes. Or we've done it this way in the past and people have really responded.
Yeah.
Helping like, this is some culture here.
Almost the historian, right? Really, like if we're signing up for student council positions. Yeah. The archivist.
So I'm noticing as I talk through this, and God, you're going to become insufferable. Like,
oh my gosh.
I think you would be my like.
Oh, I would be your best volunteer.
Go volunteer.
Well, thank you very much. All right, yeah.
I mean, there would definitely be some things I'd change about you.
Okay, yeah. Hat notwithstanding.
So for me, the tech side of stuff, like, I need that person.
Yeah.
That could own that.
Yeah.
That was always a big thing anywhere I went, because I have no knowledge of like music and tech really.
Yeah.
And so I always, like any new place, those were like the two first.
Okay.
That I'm like, I gotta find.
It's like you're putting the call out, like, who here is good at Microsoft spreadsheet pro presenter? Yeah, like you just like it's a business resume. You're like, who has skills? Now I will say this. So return a compliment. There are some youth pastors listening that might think, well, yeah, man, like. but I am a go-getter. And so on behalf of the go-getter, tech-savvy, next step detail person, the person you need is someone to remind you of the why. Because just because you can do all the things doesn't mean you should be doing all the things. If you're the person, guy or girl, who's really proud of their overly packed calendar, you probably need the volunteer that says things like, why are we doing all this? Because there are some volunteers that are saying it, just not saying it to you. The students may not say, yeah. And so I think for some folks that are like, look at all the stuff we could do, you need volunteers that are like, but why? And like, you need I say this as a true story and happening in my life. We had a huge sign-up event for camp. It was like we were going to match the energy of camp with the sign-up event we were going to have for camp. And we had like the band that was going to be at camp. We had a bonus band, whatever. And at the end, like we had like a band inside and a band outside on a trailer. We had inflatables. We had food just to get signed up for camp. Yeah. All of that. And at the end of the night, the deacon guy, braided belt, loafers, goes, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
And I had thought about a lot what the event was going to be. I had not thought a lot about why it might or might not matter. Now, I think I could have excavated my way down into it having meaning, but his pause and question means that I had not articulated it ahead of time. Yeah. And for the guy that cooked 200 hot dogs and brought his big stock trailer for a band to play off the back of, he did it because I asked him to, not because he saw the vision of the why.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have started that a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good. Golly, GOAT leaders, man. I think GOAT leaders, or just leaders in general, like, I don't think most of them are just born.
Okay.
I think
you may have to do a little slider tweaking.
You may have to do a little slider tweaking. We're throwing like pie in the sky, like we want them to have all of these things.
Yeah.
And I think it's not lost on us that for many people, and us at different times for sure, we're probably in a deficit of leaders, of just going, I need a live body.
I need one more person.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the question is like, how do we get the best leaders?
Yeah.
Which is important. And the one thing that I would add to this is the big thing that I found over the years is the individual ask.
Yeah.
Like, man, we've all done that thing where you like stand up on stage and you're like, children's ministry and youth ministry needs more volunteers, please, please, please.
Someone come down to the front. It's the second favorite invitation to give. Yeah.
And most people that's an immediate no.
Yeah.
And until they're individually asked.
Yeah. Well, especially the best people.
The best people.
So you've said something that has, early in the podcast, like maybe the first 20, 30 episodes, that has lingered with me ever since. And that if you make an ask to everyone for that kind of help, people respond out of their giftedness. Yeah. And so you will get people that are abundant in mercy because they feel for you asking. They're like, this poor kid. And so like they will show up until the mercy for you runs out, which is to say like until like it seems like you don't need them anymore or it seems like you haven't utilized them. The best folks are often invited. It's college recruitment. I want you to come play linebacker. Well, I want you on this team in this role because that helps them imagine that you've seen them. You know them well.
Well, you've got to. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of us make in leader recruitment is we have the position.
Yeah.
And then we're just trying to find somebody to fill it in.
We imagine the position. Who out there could fill the position that we've created?
Correct. Good leadership finds the pieces.
Yeah.
And then you have to start dreaming of what team can we make.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, take a sports team.
Oklahoma Sooner offense. We're just going to outscore them.
Correct. Well, there's two ways to build a team.
Yeah.
One, you have your system.
Yeah.
Well, then you really have to have an unlimited pool.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's like, okay, we're a fast offense.
Yeah.
So you got to go find fast guys.
Yeah.
The reality is most of us are in churches with a limited pool.
Right.
But
At the very best, we're just stealing from other pools.
right.
Portals open.
What you're doing is you've read some student ministry book.
Yeah.
And you're like, we need these leaders doing this thing, and you've stolen some like adult recruiting guide off of some youth ministry website.
Yeah.
And so now you're just trying to plug people into that.
Yeah.
Well, you have round pegs, square holes, all these kind of things.
Cafe workers with no cafe. Yeah.
So one of the things that back in the day, we were doing ministry in a town with a Fortune 500, like top 5 Fortune 500
company. Yeah.
And so we had a lot of like executive level folks in our church. Well, the call of come do student ministry, when most of these guys, all they remember student ministry is 80s, 90s student ministry.
Ping pong, roller
crazy
skates, pizza, questionable pranks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to find somebody that can really help you in that?
Yeah.
But if you go to someone, and this was reality, like there was a guy in our church that he was head of accounting.
Yeah.
I mean, the small numbers for this guy is like 1.5 million.
Right. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. And so
For 41 registrations?
right. For that guy, the open invite to come and do student ministry is not enticing.
Right.
But like, hey, will you help us with finance, budgeting, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
He can literally do that in his sleep.
Yeah. He can help you imagine like a cost breakdown for camp a lot easier than whatever training you had. Yeah.
And ideas that you would have never thought of.
Yeah.
Of how to schedule stuff,
Yeah.
how to budget,
Yeah.
and of things like, okay, hey, this event is always really good. If you charge this, you can actually pull down your price of camp.
Because this event
Buy
oversells.
this.
Yeah, that's good.
And okay, and this is how it helps families.
Yeah.
You can utilize budgeting this way.
Yeah.
Where you're like, are we making money? Like, I don't know what's happening.
I feel gross. Should I feel gross?
And even there was a woman, her whole job was to travel all over the world and do interior design.
Okay.
For all these places.
Just staging for products and companies.
And she's just sitting in the pew going, well, what'd I do?
Yeah.
And you're like,
I've never led a small group.
yeah. Hey, would you like to help like rethink the way that we do
Gather.
our small group
Yep.
space?
Yeah.
Like all of those kind of pieces. And so there are people that you need to look at and go, okay, what are the giftings that God's given the people in our church? So then what does that allow us to create? I think sometimes we're trying to do like student ministry in a box that looks like everybody else. And I think one of the unique things that churches can do is to actually utilize the gifting that's inside of it to create something new and different.
Yeah.
It's why I don't know that everything needs to look the same, because I think sometimes we get in pinches when we're trying to create something that somebody else down the road has, and you don't have that leadership yet.
And it's a lack of, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the work. Not to make this like a Moneyball quote-a-thon, but there is something that can be missed about what we're actually trying to do. Instead, we're not trying to replicate someone else's student ministry. We're trying to figure out how this community, congregation, and context can best disciple the teenagers in our town, area, city. And I think that is where we get tripped up. And that's the thing about the online comparison, Facebook shopping of groups, resources, and things that frustrates me the most is that we just end up wanting the GOAT volunteer from somebody else. Like, man, if I had David, if I had Tina, if I had Tiffany, I would be fine. And it's like that she or he makes sense for their team. And you probably do. You just didn't know how to ask. Like some of the best volunteers at churches are the ones where, again, innovation thrives where resources are minimal. And like you're going to have folks that will have the most to offer when you have the least to ask, like carrying the least to them. Like they're going to see the need and they're going to respond. I think for so many of us, the greatest volunteer for for your student ministry is probably the person that you didn't know how to ask yet.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the right role, position, or imagination of how they might fit into your team.
So I'll give it a specific example, and I can pick on her because it's my wife.
Okay.
Not really picking on her. I'm picking on myself here.
It's going to be another apology video.
No,
that we
no,
have to do.
this is going to be go over well.
Dear Instagram.
For many years, I asked my wife to lead small group.
Yeah.
Primarily, and sometimes because out of need.
Necessity. Yeah.
And
I'm
she-
one short.
My
Please
wife's
help.
incredible
Yeah.
at that. But if I would have truly thought it out, my wife is a trained therapist.
Yeah.
She literally one-on-one talks to people all
Every day.
long.
Yeah.
Why I didn't really think through, like, how do I ask that
Yeah.
of her, or not even completely ask it, how do I free up space for her
To
to
take
be
that tool
just that person
for your ministry.
for my ministry and not have to overwhelm her with, I need you to teach this class every week
Right.
in this big group setting,
Yeah.
which she was still incredible at.
Yeah.
But it's like, could it have been utilized even better?
There's a different layer there that she offers that other people in your team
can't.
could not do. Yeah.
And when she's in that space, she can't float,
right.
right?
Right. Right.
She can't be available. She can't help train all the other leaders
Right.
about how to deal with students walking through tragedy or those
Yeah.
kind of things. Like, that was an underutilized piece that I think that there are probably people in our ministries right now that we're not thinking about. You're dealing with professionals. You're dealing with people that some of them in your ministry speak all of the time.
Right. Presentations, classroom
Help,
teachers.
like,
Yeah.
Ask for their help.
Yeah.
Learn from them. Like, give them opportunities. Because the thing that I've found is people that utilize their spiritual gifts in a secular setting all day come alive
Yes.
when they finally get to utilize that thing for the church. And I think we've got to be present enough to ask the questions of, how has God gifted you?
Yeah.
And what do you want to do to serve the church?
Yeah.
Whether it's hospitality, whether it's empathy, whether it's excitement, all of these kind of things. And so I think sometimes, and we even started this conversation off like this, what's your best volunteer? We thought about the ministries we had,
Yeah.
and we tried to create somebody to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing, this is who God has made this person. Who do we need to become because God has placed them in this community?